Shall we just kick on in with some of the things we liked an awful lot? Drew, what would be your pick for topness of this year?
Yeah, well, this is actually quite easy. Going through the list of things I've seen this year, I'm a bit cooler on rating systems than I have been in the past, but to give a general idea of like 5-star, 4-star films, I've actually only seen one film this year that I would have rated 5 stars. A whole bunch 4 that I've really enjoyed, but there's been one thing or other I've not been particularly fond of. Only one 5-star film, and that's Pedro Almodovar's Pain and Glory. Beautiful, touching, charming film. Career best performance from Antonio Banderas. As beautiful and colourful as you'd expect an Almodovar film to be. Just frankly a cinematic delight. It's just a beautiful film, and I'm very, very glad I saw it.
Good stuff. I'm not so sure I could pick one classic for the ages out of what I've got here, but like yourself, there's a lot of films that I did really like. I will give a asterisk-y type mention to something that we've mentioned this in previous podcasts as well, but Roma snuck out at the tail end of 2018 after we'd recorded our best of 2018 episodes, and had I seen it before we recorded that, then it would definitely have been there. So I suppose it should deserve some kind of mention in the best of film podcast. I feel like I'm just righting or wrong with that, but Roma's obviously incredibly good.
Yes, I hadn't actually considered that it was after that. I think I hadn't seen it till a wee bit after you anyway, but yes, that's fantastic. That would have been up there as well.
Yeah, as of the sort of unarguably 2019-ish films, I suppose I would go perhaps with let's see, the favourite might be one of the more obvious ones out of this look, again, it would have been 2018 for a lot of other people, but came out here really early 2019, probably the 1st of January, I think it was, Yorgos Lanthimos' quirky period drama, which really satisfied and was very funny in a way that his other works perhaps haven't. Not a huge fan of The Lobster, but yeah, the favourite was pretty great for me. It's some people it will bounce off of, I can quite clearly understand that, but it happened to be right up my alley. Some great performances, very funny film, and I liked that an awful lot.
Excellent. I still haven't got around to watching that yet, which is... You think if you did a film podcast as a hobby and loved cinema, you'd maybe watch some more films, but somehow I contrived to not to do that.
Yeah. I know the feeling. Sometimes the investment seems like it's too much. It's almost like you don't want to be disappointed. I've been disappointed so much by so many things. So, yeah. Yes.
Let's see, what else would I pick that really kind of floated my boat this year? Okay, I'll go with this. This is the 2018 film by production date. It didn't come out here till I think April, bar a couple of film festivals. An Italian film we covered a couple months ago called Lazzaro Felice, or Happy as Lazzaro, which isn't really about anything.
Yes.
Would certainly turn a lot of people off, but I found it really quite lovely. I'm not quite sure in what way though. It's sort of almost, not hypnotic, but kind of trancey in a way. Quite odd, but just really engaging.
Yeah.
It's not really about anything. It's not got a strong story. It's like weird, but I just found it really, really, well, not like a lot of films I've seen, and really interesting. Yeah.
It's like a really peculiar fairy tale thing about or sort of character study, except it's not really about the main character, it's about the people he bounces off, and it's very strange, but it somehow works almost in spite of itself. A lot of enjoyment.
And also based on a true story of this horrible woman who kept people basically as wage slaves after that was outlawed, and they were somehow cut off from the entire outside world. And so that sounds like it should be horrendous, but it's almost like more of a catalyst for what happens to characters later rather than what the story's about. It's just, like, that would be a very fine story in its own because it's such a horrendous thing that happened.
Yes.
And so in this kind of weird kind of magical reality, it's just a catalyst. It's very odd. Yes, very interesting film. Absolutely not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but if you're looking for something a bit different, I think that's worth checking out.
Absolutely. Won't spend too much talking about this because we just had a whole episode on it, but it'd be foolish not to recognise The Irishman as being one of the top tier films of the year. Some quality Scorsese stuff there, and yes, well worth a look in if you haven't done so already.
Yep, yeah, for the same reason. We've just talked about it on a podcast that would have been receiving your plays about 2 days ago, so probably less said about that the better for now. What else would I like to mention just now? I think probably Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I didn't have the same issue as you did at the end with the violence against women, because I also, after we'd talked about that, it occurred to me, well, no, it's not just violence against women, because one of the major bits of violence earlier is when Brad Pitt's kicking all kinds of crap out of a long-haired hippie guy, so it actually balances out quite well, I think, in the end. I'm still left with the question of why.
Why? Yes.
I mean, the upside is, because I always thought it was rather sad that until probably this film, for so many people, Sharon Tate was known as a murder victim rather than a human being. And in a way, I guess the film changes that a little. It's a very well made film, very well acted, it's very, very entertaining, as I find most of Tarantino's stuff. And yeah, once again, it's just the why. I haven't worked out the why. Why that person in that time?
Yeah.
I mean, the film is very entertaining, that's great, but why?
Yeah. I have the same issues with it, really, but it still would have been one of the films I'd be talking about. If not my next pick, it would have been the one after it. So yeah, still a very well made and very enjoyable film, and yeah, it's good to see Tarantino still ploughing his trade. Some could argue there's a lot of identikit films coming out, and this Tarantino still definitely knows how to make something that's a bit individual. So yes, I certainly enjoyed it. In terms of just sheer enjoyment value, Dolomite Is My Name was a hell of a lot of fun. The tale of blaxploitation with a return to form of Eddie Murphy, which is something that seems to be said an awful lot, but is actually true this time. Yeah, terrific stuff. Really enjoyable little film, and well worth taking a look at. Yeah,
I mean, it could be argued. I've seen some people that, for instance, follow us have made this point. It's kind of a fairly typical local boy done good sort of tale.
Yeah.
Which is not inaccurate, but it doesn't stop it being very entertaining.
Exactly.
And again, well acted, well made. So you don't have to have a particularly original idea, just do it very well.
Yeah.
Which this film does. So yeah, perfect. A very entertaining film. What else? I'm not doing these in any particular order, Scott. Beyond Pain and Glory, I've got a short list and I'm just sort of picking them at random.
Yeah, much the same.
Okay, I'm going to go for Grâce à Dieu, By the Grace of God, most recent film from Francois Ozon, which it's a film about the Catholic clergy abuse scandal, this time in France, in Lyon in particular. It is a film that ought to be really harrowing, yet isn't. It's very straightforward for Ozon, doesn't have a lot of his general stylings, genre switching, that sort of thing. And actually that works quite well, because it's played straight and that suits the material, even if you might question why Ozon for this film.
Yeah.
But it is sort of uplifting, I find it in some points. It deals with such horrible stuff, but the fact that the characters in it manage to come to terms with it and do something positive is kind of pleasing, even if what happened to them is unforgivable.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a film worth checking out. Not as miserable as you'd expect it to be given this topic.
Yes.
Bit of a backhanded compliment here.
Yeah. Also up near the top of my bubbling under list is Rocket Man, which is basically Bohemian Rhapsody but much better, and without most of the problematic elements in it. Even though I've got almost no interest in Elton John, it's just a really entertaining story. It's really well told. The musical numbers work incredibly well, and it's just an awful lot of fun. Well worth a look in if you've a passing interest in a man's music. Yeah, pretty good.
Which I don't, but yes. I may watch anyway, because I haven't got around to doing so yet. Right, next one I'm going to talk about is a documentary, which I hadn't heard of at all until I floated the idea of a particularly depressing idea for a topic, and Craig, for the time being, nixed that by saying he was still recovering from Forsama. What is that, I wondered, and looked it up and watched it, and yes, it's harrowing, but very good. It's about a journalist living with her husband and child in the middle of Aleppo during the Syrian civil war, and boy, is it bleak. And it does not shy away from the bleakness at all. Now, I'll admit, it took a little while to get into it, because it was, to a degree, one of those things when I thought, why would you put the camera down?
Yeah.
Because of the situations that were being filmed, and just like feel maybe like they're in the way too.
Yeah.
But as it went on, I began to realise, no, this is important. This has to be documented. Mm-hmm. And it actually came out of this woman's reports coming out from Aleppo during the Civil War. And that was vitally important for people in Syria, and just for the wider international community to learn about it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't shy away from anything, though. The dead children, the multiple dead children, the bombs, the hardships. It's horrible, but very, very worthwhile and very well made. Not your happy clappy Christmas film, though.
No.
I wouldn't watch it like tomorrow if you're listening to this when it drops.
Yeah, it's not very seasonal. Just to lighten the mood a bit, I'll pick Booksmart. Nothing particularly original in it, to be honest. It's a coming-of-age tale apart, unless it being told from a female perspective is somehow original, which I suppose, given the sausage-centric nature of a lot of these kind of comedies can be. This is a somewhat different take, but crucially, regardless of all that, it's just pretty funny. So, yeah, well worth a look into. Yeah,
Booksmart's on my list too. I absolutely was not as blown away by it as so many people seem to have been. I'm thinking, it's not that special. It is, however, funny and entertaining.
Yes,
that'll do. I don't quite see why people say it's such a special great film. It's basically female Superbad. I said that at the time. I've not changed my mind about that. But given that Superbad is also funny, I don't see why that's a problem.
Yeah.
So don't buy into the hype, but it's a very entertaining and amusing film.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily going to put this in, but I think about again, it's another year, another multiple number of comic book films. I decided to just put in my favourite comic book film of the year. Been a disappointing year in many ways, actually.
Really?
Captain Marvel was fine. Shazam was fine. But Spider-Man Far From Home I found very entertaining. Mm-hmm. With the caveat that it's got really big problems when the whole half of the population of the world died thing, oh, they're all back now, but nothing has happened.
Yes.
Yeah. There is a big fundamental issue underlying the film. But on top of that, Jake Gyllenhaal's great, Tom Holland continues to be great. It's just a very entertaining film.
Yeah.
And even has J.K. Simmons in it briefly.
Yeah, I liked Spider-Man Far From Home an awful lot. It would be, in fact, in general, the comic book crop this year I thought was pretty good. I didn't mind it. Captain Marvel was at best okay, but that aside, I found quite a lot to like in Aquaman and Spider-Man in particular, and Avengers Endgame, and I did see Shazam last week or something. I thought it was very funny indeed. So I thought it was a nice bit of levity to a genre that's could use taking itself a bit less seriously sometime.
Was Avengers Endgame this year?
Yes.
I managed to have missed that going through this list. I thought it was last year. Yes, I enjoyed that a lot. Also, yeah, Aquaman was last year, was it not, though? But I've still not seen it, so it's a moot point. But yeah, I've had a bit less luck than you, I guess, because I saw Dark Phoenix and it stinks. But yeah, for me, it's still the Spider-Man film is the best of the year.
Yes, Aquaman. Why did I see that? Maybe it's because I think I wound up seeing Aquaman in Mexico. Maybe it got released in 2019 over there or something. But anyway, yes, it wasn't bad. So one deserves mention, at least. I think Joker is an interesting film. I suppose also vaguely comic book related, although it doesn't really feel like it's got anything to do with the comic books.
Very vaguely.
Yes,
it's barely got anything to do with Joker really, or Batman. It's kind of separate from how that's been portrayed, at least in film.
Yeah.
The comics, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to legislate into it too much than what I already said. It's basically an incredible central performance from Joaquin Phoenix and some ancillary stuff that makes it kind of good. It's the sort of project that you think could easily fly apart if it wasn't balanced exactly the way that it is, but somehow it's pulled it off. Surprisingly good, given where it's come from, what it's about, and yes, it's something. I was as sceptical as anyone else when they mentioned what this was going to be, but somehow it's kind of worked, and I'm shocked by it.
Yeah, I think without Phoenix, it absolutely doesn't work. So,
yeah,
as you say, it's got a fantastic central performance and a really compelling third act that somehow manages to pull off the trick of convince you the first two acts were much better than they actually were.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, one of those films you don't want to think about because it doesn't really work that well as a world.
Yeah, yeah.
But again, Joaquin Phoenix is captivating in his lead role, so it kind of papers over a lot of the cracks.
Yes.
It's still a really good film, but this is almost filters into the disappointment category, and that's Toy Story 4.
Right. Because
Toy Story 4 is a very good film, but all the other Toy Story films have been great films.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem. Well, beyond the fact that it was entirely unnecessary as well.
Yeah, yeah.
They need to stop going back to that well. However, it's still beautiful and extremely well made, as you would expect from Pixar. And yeah, it's very entertaining. Further stories of characters you love, that's great. Just kind of unnecessary and doesn't seem to have quite the magic that the other three films before it had. And also rather undermines the impact of the end of Toy Story 3.
Yes, yes.
Which is probably its biggest crime.
Yeah, I feel much the same way. It's actually the next one on my list as well, and I have the same complaints with you. It's a really good film, but yes, it just doesn't need to be there, other than the need to make some more money. It seems like it doesn't have a strong story that it's trying to tell. Certainly in the way that the first three Toy Stories did and ended so clearly. And but yeah, for all that, it's still a lot of fun, and I'll take what I can get these days. Anyway, right, I think I'm pretty much done with the films that I would call the best. There's a whole bunch of the kind of bubbling under stuff I think I'm just starting to get into. Maybe just give you a rundown of that without any particular explanation behind it, if you're in a similar kind of position, Drew. So anything else you want?
Well, I only have one other film to mention at all. So
right, okay.
Which was Asif Kapadia's Diego Maradona.
Yes.
It's a really compelling documentary, really interesting. Yeah, it's a documentary about Maradona that's good. There's not an awful lot to say about it, certainly beyond what we did in a podcast a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And that is the only other film I have noted down on the positive side of things.
Nice. Little list of stuff that was, to the kind of pretty good end of okay. That's still recommend catching up with this lot. Diego Maradona was on that list. Just because I don't think I've mentioned it, I don't think I can possibly get away with saying Shoplifters has anything to do with this year, but it was the year I saw Shoplifters in, and it's really good. So
I was with that. I actually, going through my list, Scott, I looked at Shoplifters and I wonder if that maybe came out this year just so I could mention it, because it's one of the best films I've seen in years, and it's no, it can't.
Yeah. But we'll mention it anyway, just because. The rest of the stuff here that I've not mentioned already, Mirai was a fun little tale. Mentioned that. And I know you're not a huge fan of the franchise, but I thought Lego Movie 2 was pretty decent.
I did not care for that. Although I'd somehow, Mirai's another one I've passed over. I really like Mirai.
Yeah.
I don't know how I've managed to miss that and making my little list. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'd forgotten about that somehow. And
in terms of a fairly adequate family adventure, or somewhat better than adequate, The Kid Who Would Be King was fun enough.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't particularly impressed, but it was okay.
Yeah. Things that perhaps... Can You Ever Forgive Me was a fun little tale as well, with another couple of strong central performances.
The one with Richard E. Grant.
Yes.
That's another one I've somehow managed to skip over going through my list of stuff, because I really quite enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Really good character piece.
Also say Fighting With My Family, which is the surprising WWE-based wrestling.
That was a film about wrestling I thought was quite decent. Yes. So that was a big surprise for me.
Yeah, lovely little kind of family dynamic set up there. It worked quite well. Nothing particularly innovative in it, but still quite a lot of fun. More in the sort of interesting rather than actually truly good, but I did quite like Alita Battle Angel, at least on some levels. Godzilla 2, certainly fine as well. Didn't mind that at all for a big bit of kaiju action. Diego Maradona, of course, we mentioned, just in terms of cinephile interest, the man who killed Don Quixote finally appearing does deserve at least some recognition this year, if nothing else. And something that's maybe a little bit of a disappointment given who's in it, Vice, the Dick Cheney film with Christian Bale in it. Not in the ultimate thing. I was hoping that would be one of the top candidates, and it's just a good film. Didn't actually blow me away, but certainly solid enough.
I really liked that. Sorry, I really didn't like that, but I want to watch it again, and I haven't got around to it yet. Because I thought I would like it more than I did, and I kind of disliked it, actually. So, I'm not quite sure why that is. There's lots in there that I ought to have liked, but I don't know.
Yeah, certainly troublesome to fully recommend, I think. But it's